Uh, there we go. Now you might be able to hear me.
Hi, William.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm doing fine. Wow, this is a wide lens here. It gets everything.
Here, I'll turn mine off so you can see what it looks like with just you. Uh, Wait 1 sec. I have to take my presenter mode off, and then I'll be back on.
Yeah. Yep, that gets everything. Um, darn. Let's see here.
Oh, sorry.
Some
I can go
adjustment.
off again, and you can adjust.
No, you're fine. I can see it fine. That's good enough.
Yeah, they don't have like the virtual backgrounds on.
Exactly. That's what I was just looking to see.
Yeah,
Is there a way I can like blur? Nope.
we did for the J event since it was on both HubSpot user groups. We did a Zoom, and it worked really well. So we can do that moving forward. I think they prefer if we use Bevy, but at least I know it works.
Oh, okay. All right. Actually, I did find that I could switch the camera source, and that tightened me up a little bit.
Okay, cool.
Let me test my screen share here
Yep.
as well. I was afraid of this. Might have to go out and come back in.
Okay.
Let's see. Yep. I'll be back.
Okay.
Okay. Go any higher. Back in the office. All right. Let's try this screen share again. Yeah, that's looking better. Oh yeah. Infinite regression. I love that. Okay, you seeing my screen? Are you hearing me? Emily, do you hear me?
Oh, yep. Now I can.
Okay. All right, good. And then you're seeing my screen okay?
Yep.
Cool. I think I'm gonna stop sharing for now and just wait for come on. I, I guess the way this is set up is that people just get thrown into a waiting room. Is that how it works?
No, they as soon as they start joining, they come on. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
well, so
yep.
so we'll see people as they come in. Okay,
Yep.
good.
Exactly. Yeah. And they will show up here, but they have to turn their camera on to be part of it. So we just kind of like encouraged it last time.
Hmm.
Um, and a couple of my internal people joined and had theirs on, so it like made other people want to. Um,
Good,
so
good.
hopefully that part works. I think it should, but so how was your trip?
It was fantastic.
Yeah, you were in
Yeah.
Italy, right?
Hmm.
Where did
Yeah.
you go in Italy?
This time we only went to Umbria.
Okay.
So we flew into Rome. We stayed one night nearby in a place called Ostia, which
Mm-hmm.
is old town. Do you know Ostia?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. Um, how do you know Ostia?
Is the villa it's like a day trip
Yes, it
off of Rome.
is.
I
Yeah,
studied
there's.
abroad in Rome, so
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's this famous archaeological site there. We were at Ostia Antica, which used to be the seaside and was a port city back, 2,000 years ago.
Mhm.
um, and we just found a Airbnb there. Didn't know much about the place at all, and we're waiting a day for our friends to come in. So we had to park outside of the city walls and walk in.
Mhm.
It was really cool. It had a nice park nearby. We walked over to that. I can't remember the name of that place, but we walked over there. We just didn't have the energy to go and tour through it, but we
Yeah.
drove by it as we left to go get our friends. And it was enormous. It's amazing how
Yeah.
big that place is. But then
I
we went to Umbria. That's where we were for the rest.
Okay, and that's, like, below Tuscany, right? Like, so a little bit it's like Roman wine country, isn't it?
It is. You're right. It's more east of Tuscany, though. It's like
Okay.
it is they call it the grain heart of Italy because it is directly in the center of the country. It's the only state or province in Italy that doesn't touch the ocean on one side.
Yes. So how
So
was that? What did you
very
guys
much
do there?
like so we were in the western side of it, near the uh, Tresemino. Uh,
Okay.
we didn't do a lot of day trips. We were helping to host a group over there with our yoga teacher from Michigan. And so we
Wow.
were doing some organizational work around that, and collaborating with the villa that we were staying with, and just managing things for our teacher. Um, that was great. We had a really good time. Umbria is fascinating because there's so many natural national parks there, and we could literally just walk across a street and be on trail systems that we could explore for days,
Yep.
weeks probably. There's just so many trails. And then after the program was over, we went to Assisi and stayed up
Mhm.
from Assisi, not even 10 minutes by car, and you could actually walk into Assisi from there. We took a hike up and went over to um, the basically it's the hermitage that Saint Francis founded
Yep.
that was outside of Assisi. Did you go up there?
No, we never made it to
Ramo?
Assisi. No, we
Okay.
didn't. It was one trip we didn't get to do, but I will be back, so I
It's a country that I will go back to over and over. We've been 5 times so far. We spent
wow.
our honeymoon there for a month traveling
Yep.
around, and then we've done of those 5 trips, 3 of them we've been trip organizers on, um, and I would do it again.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Did you
Mhm.
do a lot of yoga on the trip? Was that kind of the
That was yeah, that was the, main purpose of the trip. So, we mostly had, yoga twice a day, um, except for those days where we had other activities planned. We
Yep.
had planned to go to Perugia and to Assisi with the group in 2020, but that got delayed, and then other expenses came up. Costs of the transportation went up,
Yeah.
so we ended up having the group stay at the villa and bringing wine tasting in, bringing olive oil tasting, which I had never done an olive oil tasting. I learned a lot from that. um,
Yeah.
we came back with a lot of olive oil.
Oh,
um,
I'm so jealous.
it's so good. That olive oil over there is just uncomparable.
It's so clean too. It's
Hmm.
like going over there just makes you appreciate how clean their products are. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yep. It
wow.
is.
Sounds like a dream trip.
It was good. It was just nice to be away, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully you have some vacation coming up yourself. Mm.
I'm in that time of my life where vacation is usually centered around weddings. So,
Oh yes, yes. And I've got staff that is doing the same thing.
yeah. I'm from Massachusetts, so all my friends are up there and my family too. So it is
Hmm.
often around a trip up there. But I am actually doing have you ever heard of the Trailblaze Challenge?
I haven't.
It's a 1 day, 28-mile hike for Make a Wish Foundation.
Oh, I have
Yeah.
now that you say that. Yes.
Yep. They do billboards all over Charlotte.
Okay.
So my dad and I are doing that. So we've been training every
Awesome.
weekend for it. And the hike is the first weekend in June. So I'm just trying to get through that before I think about the summer.
Yep. Yep. I hear
Yeah.
you. That's ambitious. That's a big hike.
It is. We did 21 miles 2 weekends ago, and that will be the longest we do before 28. And yeah,
Hmm.
it's painful. So, um, But
for
for
a
a good
good
cause.
cause.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly.
And a good way to, get out with your dad and get some exercise and see
Exactly,
some
I
different
know.
parks. Um,
I'm amazed by him. He's 57 and he didn't make the full 21. It was a 16-mile loop with a 3-mile out and back that was on the end of it.
mhm.
And so he finished the 16, and he's been doing like a lot of IT band stretching and everything. So we'll see how it goes. But I can imagine if I'm feeling it, he's feeling it twice as much as I am.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Doesn't get easier, that's for sure.
yeah. Yep. All right. People should start joining here soon.
Yeah, I'm sure they're wrapping up emails and other things right now.
Yep.
I'm gonna go fill my water and I'll be
Okay.
right back.
Good.
Have y'all been hiring like crazy at Stratagon?
Yeah, we just lost one or two people too, who
Mm,
had been here for kind of a while. I think it's just like coming out of COVID, but we have a good bit of interns coming in to both offices this summer, and
nice.
um, we are still looking for an account manager, I think, or account coordinator level. So
Hmm. Hmm.
see what comes up with the interns. Honestly think some of them are pretty promising, so we
Good.
will see. How about you guys?
Yeah, we have been a lot. We've had new team members coming on in March, April, another one coming on next week. Just it is growth season right now for agencies.
Plenty of work. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. Yeah, the recruiters are getting pretty ballsy in my Stratagon inbox. I'm like, geez.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's for a private conversation. I'm not in front of a public audience here, not being recorded. Hey, folks, as y'all come in, feel free to turn your cameras on and join us.
Hey, Emma, Michael.
Michael, I like the artwork there behind you, the tree. Are you the artist? Or, hi, McKenna.
Hello.
So it is just now 11:30. Hello, Philip. We'll give folks a few more minutes to trickle in. Emily and I were just talking about vacation and travel. Um, Anybody got fun locations, fun plans coming up? Not even the beach. No.
I'll fill everybody in because it's a good cause. My dad and I are doing the Trailblaze Challenge this summer. It's a 1 day, 28-mile hike for Make a Wish. So we'll be hiking the Foothills Trail on Saturday, June 4th, for that cause. So I'm at least trying to get through that before I probably plan a beach trip to relax the next weekend after
Gonna
that.
need a massage before the
Yeah.
beach trip or
Yep.
soak. Do you have a fundraising page for that, Emily?
I do. We're getting there. We're actually planning hopefully a yoga event. I reached out to an instructor I had worked with in the past, Emily Reindaller. She teaches yoga to special needs children, and she's going to
Hmm.
teach a donation class for us at Triple C, hopefully, Sunday the 22nd. So I'll get information out about that too. So that should be a fun way to come together and get a good stretch in before the big
Yeah.
hike.
Yep. Good thing to do.
Yep.
Emily, did we have any questions come in as some folks are signing up for the event? You shared
I
the
did.
list with me, but I don't think I looked to see if anybody put questions in there.
Yeah, I don't think I saw any, but everybody feel free to drop questions in the chat and the Q&A as well, and we can get to those, either as we're going or feel free to come off mute too. We definitely want it to be a kind of an engaging session. You're welcome
Yes.
to ask questions as we go.
Yeah, we'll be sitting here looking at each other if y'all don't come off of mute. And I've got some things to share with you, but this is not intended to be a monologue here today.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, Isaac. Glad you could join us. So Emily, I want to give folks just another minute, and then I'll get things going. So nothing coming through in chat right now. Well, I do have questions that I want to get us started to introduce with, and we can just start typing those into chat rather than having to go around the room. Yeah, first is your name, but I got names all on the screen here, so I don't need that one. So why don't you say your role and whether your company sells products or services?
So I'll go first. I am a revenue operations specialist, helping companies document their process and set it up in HubSpot. So it's a service in that sense.
Cool. Here, are you in the Charlotte area, Isaac?
I'm in the upstate of South Carolina, so I'm nearby.
Okay. Yep. That's a pretty area.
Yeah, it's nice. We're outside of the city, so it's not as expensive, but we're right near Greenville. It's probably like 30 minutes away.
Yeah, we just hired 2 employees up in that area. So I look forward to making visits down there. My dad used to live down there. Hey, Michael. So I see some folks typing in chat what they're up to. Philip, Director of Marketing Ops. Um, and Emily. Emily, say more about product. You just do a mix of services and products?
I'd say Stratagon ourselves sells the service, but my clients sell products and services. Yep.
Gotcha. Nice. Yeah, that's a lot of what Nomad does as well. Is we're a services company, but we help clients who sell products.
Yep. Exactly.
There's some interesting things HubSpot's doing with their product catalog here. I've noticed lately. We're doing a project right now where we're rolling out Shopify to support e-commerce sales, but I've been seeing some things coming out of HubSpot updates that indicate that they're going to be doing more of that here, which will be good. Just keep it in one platform.
Yep.
McKenna's got both director of marketing and RevOps. So McKenna and Isaac, it looks like y'all might be able to share some notes with each other.
That is a newer thing for me. I've been director of marketing. We're working to get a replacement for me in marketing so that I can go more into RevOps because it's just been my, on the side job for the past like 6 to 8 months. So we're shifting my focus and we're about to put out the rec for my marketing replacement so that I can focus more on that.
That's great. Yeah, RevOps is an interesting space right now. We're not doing anything much with it at my agency, but I totally see the need for all these ops roles within each of the functions of the business. There's just so much to keep your head wrapped around. Michael, how's business development? You're on mute.
Sorry.
Hey,
It's very busy right now. It's been very good. The challenging part, as most of you guys know, it's hard to find people actually to execute the. I've been scolded at times to slow down or to throttle back a little bit, but it's very good right now. Can't complain.
I hear you. I hear you. I do a lot of that, as you know, for my agency.
Yes.
It is drinking from a fire hose right now.
Yes, there's a lot of need out there and a lot of great companies that are either trying to enhance current strategies or trying to develop ones that they haven't had for lead generation and brand awareness. And it's just a, with more screen time in the last 26 months or so for everybody, it's just white hot right now.
Yep. Yep. It is. Good time to be a marketer. All right. Well, thanks for sharing. Michael, I see you do marketing automation, which
Hey,
is
Michael.
a fascinating space.
Hey, Michael. It's good seeing you.
Good seeing you. Good, bud.
And Revenue Pulse sounds like a services company, Michael.
Yeah, professional services. They cut their teeth in the Marketo space, but they're seeing a whole bunch of people at the chagrin of Marketo folks moving from Marketo to HubSpot. And so
Interesting.
the challenge there is some people bleed purple and some people bleed orange, and it's very divisive. So being the change agent sometimes in companies can be a challenge, but
yes,
it's fun.
Yep. You can be the scapegoat or the punching bag.
Right.
Well, good. Well, thanks everybody for introducing yourselves and getting this conversation underway. I am going to see how well I can do at screen share here in Bevy. So bear with me as I figure this out. All right, I had it just a minute ago. Entire screen. Where did you go? Let's see if that works. Are y'all seeing Sales Hub CRM Deep Dive?
Yep.
All right. Happy Cinco de Mayo. I hope y'all have some plans for something festive this evening. So this is our conversation, our deep dive into the HubSpot Sales Hub. Last month, we covered the Marketing Hub. And before that, Michael joined me on a group call talking about some of the recent updates that have happened in the ecosystem. What I'm thinking of for today is have this is a little bit more conversational of a talk. Yeah, we've got the next 40 minutes or 50 minutes here together, and just want to make the most of this time together. These are some things that I've put down as topics for consideration, and I'm open to wherever this discussion heads today with the group that we have here. So I wanted to start with introductions. Y'all thankfully did most of these, but the one question I haven't asked you all yet is, what do you want to get out of our conversation here over the next 50 minutes? If you were on the call earlier, I was asking Emily if anybody filled out the questions that you had, and I don't think we had any pre-event questions, but as you're thinking about Sales Hub and what you're dealing with at your company from a sales function, or maybe it's a integration sales marketing function, what are some of the issues that you're facing that you'd like to dive into in our talk today?
I will answer. So for me, it's really just So we're relatively new to HubSpot. We've had we've had everyone, our sales team, active in it for about a year. We have had utilization and implementation issues with getting the team utilizing the tool.
Okay.
But so some of the things that I want to learn, and some of that is our business is in a very transitional stage right now where we were kind of a small business doing everything willy-nilly while we scaled up quickly.
Hmm.
And we didn't necessarily scale the most efficiently. And so that's part of bringing HubSpot into it, is to help with that and moving myself into more of a RevOps role so that we can structure. We had a very sales run organization. It was founder run at first, and then we're kind of more to a sales run. And then now we're kind of transitioning to being more operationally ran and making better data-driven decisions. So just how other companies are doing that. What are your best practices? Another thing that we're transitioning to is, as a sales run organization, we had a lot of our sales. We had a sales team, and it was built like account managers and then inside sales reps. But as we continue, especially not so much for our product that we build and manufacture, but for our distribution business, our model is much more customer service. The only selling is happening at contract renewal with our customers. We typically do 3 to 5 year term corporate wide agreements with large prime contractors. So that's really the only selling time. Otherwise, it's just width-wise growing our contracts. And so it's the same key contacts that we're working with. It's just making sure that we're capturing all of the business for the products that we resell. So it's more of a service play than it's how's the customer service, loyalty, brand awareness than we're not really like lead digging and doing, traditional sales activities with that. So it's transitioning the company to that, and just hearing how other people use it and what works well for.
Interesting. When you mentioned utilization, are you seeing problems with your team using the system, or just not using it to the full capacity, or a little of both?
A little of both. So
Mhm.
our team, we have 6 account managers and 13 what are referred to as inside sales reps.
Mhm.
So before, we just had we have NetSuite as our ERP system, which has CRM, but it was very limited with what we could do with it. And that was I had been pushing for HubSpot since 2017. That's how long I had been.
Congratulations on getting that done.
Finally got it.
Yep.
But then I had to do all of the implementation, integration, and all that stuff. But we got it done, and we're there. So, and it was kind of a haphazard rollout. So I don't think we did it in the best order, and that led to some of that. So now we're trying to make up for some of those. Emma, I have a good resource if you need a good integrator. We have a phenomenal one.
Oh, good.
I can send you that. But we had issues with our own problems with rollout that that internally we're responsible for. But then it's a utilization issue of, they didn't have to. It's habit changing and behavior changing.
Yeah.
They didn't log calls before. Now they got to log calls, and getting them to go back in and fill out their meetings. And we have sales people who are customer service, and so it's a weird dynamic, because it's like, I don't want them to be salespeople. I want them to be good customer service people, because that's what they need to be good at to increase our revenue.
Yeah.
And it's helping them understand that, so they're not chasing after deals that it doesn't make sense to bid and quote, and just utilization and making sure they're using their time efficiently.
William.
Yes.
I was going to say, McKenna kind of has said some things that I run across every day in the sales process of implementing. A lot of teams have been around for a while, and they're stuck in their ways. A lot of them see the CRM or the sales as a big brother, as kind of oversight, and they don't look at it in the right way. And that's just literally just implementation and kind of how top-down management should predict it and talk about it. Because CRM to me is like having a personal assistant. I mean, it's literally to help me do my job better in a more efficient way. And it's something that if you can I always tell people if you can show people how to make money with it, they'll use it every day. But if you just introduce it to them as something like, hey, here's something I need you to do, and this is why I want to do it, and look at it as big brother and just kind of repeating their steps, they're never going to adopt it. That's the challenging part. So McKenna, I think you hit on quite a few key points there.
Yes, she did. She did indeed. And you're getting some thumbs up from Emma about the headache of NetSuite.
It's a party.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And there's some things in the topics that I have for today that we'll get into some of the things that we've used to create some of that alignment and the adoption issue. And that's, I think, the number one. It doesn't matter what tool you choose, adoption is always going to be a problem. Whether it's on the sales side or the marketing side or even on the service side. And it sounds like you may have all three of those hubs in use, or at least you have a need for all three of them. But that may be part of your challenge as well. Is can we get the service teams using that so the sales teams, the marketing team has that intel? Cool. What else? And anybody else have any thoughts, or did McKenna's conversation spur anything that you'd like to add to our conversation? Okay. Well, I'm sure stuff will come up as we go along. So let's move on through here. The first thing I wanted to talk about as we dive into Sales Hub is really getting clear about the distinctions between CRM and Sales Hub. And yeah, I still have to refresh myself sometimes on the distinction between these two. But this is what my current, thinking is that the CRM is essentially that old leads spreadsheet that sales would use. Um, it also ties into your email list that marketers would used to use or continue to use, but these things used to be independent. And what HubSpot, I think one of its killer features is that they've got this all integrated into a single CRM that drives all of those tools and becomes a single source of truth for your company. So the more you use it, the more your team uses it, the more valuable and enriched that data becomes over time. You create better customer insights through reporting. McKenna, I'm finding it really interesting right now from a sales and marketing standpoint that and this happened for me during COVID. I had this realization, we were always about new leads, new leads, new leads, but during COVID, I was really about let's get really close to our existing customers and get to know them better and service the heck out of them. And then we'll deal with new leads. So I'm starting to think of the customer insights in terms of how well can I know my customers. There's a sales consultant that's, if you're in sales, you may have heard of Harvey. I think his last name is Shark. But he came up with a list of 66 questions that he would ask his sales teams to go out and learn, and not all at once. You don't run a prospect or even an existing customer through all these questions. But it was really interesting to me to go through this list of questions that he's compiled. And his point is the more of these that are filled out by your sales team, the better your sales team knows your customers, the longer those customers are going to stick around. And I look at those questions and think, wow, those are all just properties in the HubSpot CRM. So I'm looking at starting to cherry pick the ones that we want and work with my team to improve the information that we have. So that's CRM. I think of it as sitting in the center of the hub or the sprocket that feeds all these other tools. And then Sales Hub is really about the individual tools that are empowering sales professionals. Is anybody not familiar with the tools that HubSpot provides from sales, or is not using templates or calendaring, the meeting scheduling, or the pop-up notifications, mobile app? Can I safely assume we're all using that? Okay. And Emily, if I could ask you if there's anything coming up in chat, shout it out for me, because I'm on a page where I don't necessarily see chat all the time.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, so with that distinction, I've also found one of our agency colleagues at Lean Labs put together a pretty good blog post to help create this delineation. And you know, when you're thinking about adoption by teams, yeah, making sure they understand the difference between these tools, I think is an important thing to point out as well, so that they understand, here's the tools that are helping sales, here's the things that are supporting everybody in the company. The second thing I wanted to address is the subscription tiers. I've skipped over the free tools and starter tools. We're all out of elementary school at this point. This is the level of tools that we need to really get the most out of what HubSpot has to provide. I'm not going to go through these two lists. It was kind of interesting to put this together. As I did that, I also learned that in the last couple of weeks, custom associations is out of beta and is fully available. I think we'll be able to send a follow-up email out with this slide deck. I do have a link to an update about these custom associations so that you can create one-to-many associations between your contacts and deals and companies, and even custom objects now. And there's, depending on what tier you have, there's different capabilities that you get with being able to customize labels and reporting tools. The other thing I discovered as I was going through this is I always go to the pricing page for HubSpot, but HubSpot has released this tool. And I think, are y'all seeing the HubSpot's product and services catalog, or did I drop out of screen sharing?
We see here a subscription tier slide.
Okay. All right. Let me see if I can change my sharing. All right. Now are you seeing the
Yep.
product and services? I had never come across this before today. This goes through all of the features that come with the free tools, and then through each hub, what's included at the different levels, and then also point by point what gets included. So I found this useful, Michael, and I always omit that page for sales. A few other things. Who's using enterprise sales? Anybody here that it's on the enterprise tier for sales?
We are.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, we are too as an agency. Nobody else is using enterprise. We have two salespeople basically at Knowmad. So I don't have a need for a lot of seats. We could have gotten by with professional, but there's a few things that flipped us over into wanting to get into the enterprise level. For us, the two most important ones were the conversation intelligence and then playbooks. And playbooks is important because I had somebody that was moving out of client services into sales, and I just wanted to have a list for him. I did learn that that's moving into professional. I don't know if it's already there, or if it's going to be coming, but that playbook feature is moving down to the professional level, which I think is a good thing. It's a useful tool. The conversation intelligence, are y'all using that at Stratagon? Have you looked into it at all? Basically,
I've looked into it. We don't use it for ourselves, but we have a couple of customers that are on the enterprise platform. We've used it for them.
mm-hmm. It's actually gotten, at first it was terrible, and I started using another tool for recording Zoom calls, but I do like to do calls out of HubSpot and get those calls recorded. Conversation intelligence takes those recorded calls and transcribes them.
Mhm.
when we went onto the platform initially 6 months ago, the transcription was awful. I mean, it was like some of the worst AI
Jumbled.
transcription I've
Yeah,
seen.
it was
But
jumbled.
it is significantly improved. I don't know if that is because the back end's improved or if the AI is just had to pick up the lingo inside of our particular portal. But I can say that conversation intelligence has improved significantly. One drawback that we ran into is it can transcribe Zoom meetings if you connect Zoom to your HubSpot portal.
Mhm.
But if your Zoom meeting gets deleted off of the Zoom cloud, you'll have the transcription, but you won't have the recording
Recording.
anymore. And that was a bit of a loss. So we went to another platform for Zoom recording because of that.
How would you say overall that the data that you get from conversation intelligence? So for us, we work with prime contractors, so it's a little sticky for. I mean, we obviously have a lot of, we're across the U.S. too, so we have,
Mhm.
we're in two-party notification states, so we've got to give the primer.
Yeah.
So have you all seen value in that in phone calls? Because we've never done call recording, but it's something that we've talked about doing. For that purpose, is it, and since we have enterprise we can just turn it on, but is it something that you all have seen value from those inbound calls or out just the HubSpot calling, or how has that gone?
I've not tried it for the inbound calling, but I think that's just a flip of which direction the
Mhm.
the calls originating from. For outbound calls, probably the most useful we found it. We don't do a lot of service management through HubSpot. My team is working directly with clients. They're using Asana to handle most client interactions, and it's mostly either handled in Zoom or through email. So I don't have a lot of service needs. From a sales, I can speak to what our sales use cases are. There's two particular ways that I've used call record. Actually, three particular ways I've used call recording. One is just a refresher when I'm going to write up a proposal to go back and listen to voice of customer and hear exactly what that the way they language it, and also to remember what was the number that I gave them, what was the recommendation I made. When you're dealing with a lot of accounts, things start to blur. So it's nice to have that recording, and the transcription. It makes it faster to search and find that point in the conversation. Um, then the second piece is for doing reviews of calls. So as I mentioned, I've got a new team member stepping into sales. It's nice to go through and be able to review calls he's had and make suggestions and do coaching with him. And then the third is for testimonials. If I have a call with a client and they're praising the work that we've done, then I can take that and we can use it in marketing and turn it into testimonial material. Any other things that folks have used call recording? I know there's, HubSpot's still not the only tool. There's a ton of other tools out there for recording sessions. No, okay. McKenna, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I just was looking for how other people have used it. For us, it's a big step just because of who our customer base is. So it's
Yeah,
it's a risk of, are they going to start feeling kind of, do I want to talk to Tevin now? But we've definitely talked about some of the value points, and that was just wondering people who have actually used it, if they see those.
you you might be able to roll it out in a way where it's not automatically enabled, but
Mhm.
your agents can choose whether they're to turn it on or not.
So
And
that is, we have a little bit of concern about the decision making skills of understanding two party. And
Yeah.
HubSpot even does a little pop up that says, like, this number is in
yeah,
a two-party state. Please tell
yeah,
them. But
but they can ignore
just,
it.
yeah, just because our customer base is so hypersensitive to call recording, and that's where it's kind of, we just want to make sure we have a rule across the board and we have it on the main line when they call in, so that it's
Yeah.
handled for everybody instead of leaving it
Blanket.
up to an individual. Yeah.
Any other comments about recording?
Does anybody use the dialing function at all? Dial up function in the recording? Because I use that quite a bit. There's a number of calls that I make that not are always on Zoom. I dial from the from the CRM, and it's really
Yeah.
easy. And I love taking notes on that capability, and I can actually add anybody in the organization to let them know when that recording is, so they can look at it or they can listen to it. But that tends to be a fairly easy way to keep everything in one nice compact place.
Agreed.
Because again, not everybody wants to be on a Zoom call, and that's the easy way to do it.
Yeah, we definitely are, Michael. Anybody else? You know, HubSpot just, I think this week, announced some changes to their calling plans. By the way, they've increased the cap in the number of minutes
Yes.
per month, and it's also distributed through the entire account. So if you got one person who's a heavy user who is running out of minutes, and three that weren't using it at all, those
Cool.
minutes can go to the heavy user in there. So I was glad to see them do that. There's also inbound phone numbers now that HubSpot's made available, which we haven't used yet. I'm experimenting with that, as well as with AirCall. We're starting to do some experimenting with them. So to be determined if that'll change. But I really like having the voice of customer recordings and having those attached to their records and deals from a sales standpoint. And it is looking for these little wins. And this is the thing that I found in getting salespeople to adopt, marketing or sales tools is, it's what's in it for me. We all have a bit of that. I think sales is more pressured, maybe, in terms of they've so many things they're trying to keep up. They've got systems in place that have worked for them, and if they're successful, they'll probably keep working with them, rather than want to have something new brought in. So it's, looking for the champion, and then looking for how can we create the quick wins for them so that they get hooked on the capabilities of that system. I don't think there's anything else there. Let's go on. McKenna, this gets into some of the issues you're talking about with the adoption utilization and changing behaviors, um, and, and how these two teams can ideally work better together. I think the bigger companies get, the more friction there is between these functions of the business. But it doesn't take a huge company, as McKenna was sharing with us. Even in a 20-person sales and marketing group at her company, there's just going to be differences in capabilities and knowledge. Even if a small agency like mine of two salespeople and a handful of specialists who are doing the work, we've got to have ways to work together, and it's always fascinating to find where frictions are in the process and how to eliminate those. And I think that's part of the brilliance and genius of what HubSpot is doing with their tool set, and how that CRM that sits in the middle of all these tools really facilitates reducing friction. So the first one is kind of a no-brainer for us as marketers, but having accurate buyer personas in place, making sure that those are distributed. I've got links here to a set of templates you can download from HubSpot, as well as an online tool that HubSpot provides for the buyer personas. Um, you may have them, but have they been reviewed? Is it part of the onboarding process for new sales or team members, so that they're clear about it? And then establishing a service level agreement. McKenna, have you come across this language? Are you familiar with them, or do you have one in place maybe?
So at one of our customers, we do have service level agreement in place contractually. Like there's a contractual expectation, which we were not able to measure well. So that's where HubSpot that was one of the big values for us with HubSpot, is getting that team. But now we're moving on. We're changing our behaviors, and as well as the customer, because the customer's used to emailing individuals. And
Yep.
so moving to, and that's where our sales is service, because it's the expectation for quote turn time, how quickly we get them quotes, how quickly we process their orders, that kind of stuff that we can measure through tickets. We're just having to change their behavior as well as our internal behavior to make sure that we can accommodate that through the service hub. But that is absolutely our plan, and something that I think a lot of people are excited that we can finally have really clear, easy data. That if the SLA, they've never questioned the SLA. We've had the contract for 5 years, and we do perform, I would say, within those bounds most of the time. But if there ever were an issue where it was questioned, it would take a lot for us to be able to provide the data to show that we are right now. So it'll be nice to be able to add that to we do quarterly business reviews with that customer, just as a data point that we can give during that to show what our current status is and how we're performing against it.
Yeah, that will be powerful. And when you have the inevitable changing of guards at your customer's space and a new person comes in, you've got data to show, not just a good relationship that is in place there. It's an interesting example you bring up with that SLA between you and your client. This is actually what I was trying to point out, and here's where words get slippery, is establishing an SLA between internal teams, between the sales and marketing team. So there's agreement on what constitutes a sales qualified lead. What are you going to track in terms of KPIs between these two teams? When these teams are, we like to have meetings with these teams together in the room. I think of that as like that's the growth engine to a company, and sometimes I can get them to adopt that language of here's your growth team, and having that SLA in place is a nice way to ensure that when you say a lead, sales and marketing are talking about the same thing and have the same ideas. This is a template for that explicit purpose.
So we have that as well. We're working on it. I will say, I wouldn't say it's 100% in place. I actually came from the sales team. So that's how I kind of grew up I've been with the company for 8 years. So I started in like an admin role and then moved up to a salesperson and then business development. And then I came into marketing. And then I understand the pain of the salesperson. So that was one of the positives of having me in marketing, because that was the goal, was to get us more entwined together so that we really do have a marketing team that understands what the needs of the sales team are. So, and we have all of our marketing team sits in on all of the sales meetings. We have individual with our sales teams individually. We have annual planning with them, as well as having monthly meetings to follow up and set metrics and say, this is what we're measuring and how we're measuring it. And so that's where we're trying to define out what are the best metrics. And some of that was, I would joke, and why I wanted to host, I was like, I want a real like marketing. If I have to send another blast email, I'm going to fall over dead. Like I cannot, I can't keep doing this. So once we finally, and we're building out, making sure that we've got some workflows written to automatically assign personas based on title and stuff like that. But we have like a monthly focus with our HubSpot team and the sales team to have like focus categories, kind of like what you were mentioning with the 66. Like what are our key categories that we're trying to fill out on the contact record? And that's worked really well because we just have a focus, like this is what you're going after. We created a custom key contact category, because we may work with 100 buyers at a location, but really at the end of the day, it's like 6 that are 80-20 part of our business.
Yeah.
And so we really have a monthly rotating ongoing focus to make sure that those key contacts, we are building those relationship categories with those as well.
Nice. You've been doing a lot of work. You've been busy.
Yeah.
Anybody else got similar types of systems that they put in place? Isaac, I'm wondering, from a RevOps standpoint, this seems like it's like right up your alley, making sure these teams are, getting things handled cleanly.
What my job entails is more or less meeting with the leadership teams and getting clear on what their process is before setting up HubSpot so that they can merge data into it and it all conforms
Mm,
to a simple, streamlined process. After that, we do some upselling into ongoing management where we would help with that. But really, a lot of my focus is on before even they get into HubSpot, and so I haven't really set up any of those agreements yet. But with some ongoing, that definitely could happen.
nice, nice. Might need to have a conversation after this, Isaac. There's definitely some clients that could use that kind of data cleanup and process cleanup before trying to automate it.
That's what it is. I mean, because the way we look at it is the more planning and documenting you can do up front and you can look at it and say everything looks good, then it's much easier to go into HubSpot and use the tools as opposed to getting inside of HubSpot and saying, now that I'm here, what do I do next? Which is very overwhelming.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It sounds like you've learned that the hard way.
It was so
Before HubSpot,
painful.
before HubSpot, I've used all sorts of different software, and I am by far most impressed with HubSpot's like database, integrating the different objects and all that stuff. So it seems like HubSpot is set up for teams and to benefit teams, where the other ones, it was more like, what's the bare minimum we can do to start selling our software as a service, and then them growing up, and then later on they're like, oh man, we can't do everything, so people have to start buying different softwares, and that's when they get into messy
Yeah.
situations.
Yep.
We definitely felt the pain of not having the. It was kind of me and our director of technology kept being like telling the sales cannot fix. You're not going to get data until you fix the processes, and we have to fix the processes first. And it was just a heels in to kind of be like, okay, well, we'll set it up, and then when we're unhappy with utilization and that kind of stuff, it's because we don't have process. It's the system doesn't set the process for you. The system provides the data for the processes that you set. So um, we've had to work a lot on order of operations, making sure those things are in place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I have the gray hairs to prove it. The one that we're finding right now, McKenna, that's interesting from a business process standpoint, is that when there's breakdowns within the company, it's often that there's nobody who owns that process. And so without an owner, it's kind of left to, who is willing to take a responsibility for it. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. It's just interesting things to look at when there's breakdowns.
We've had issues too with where our sales team worked in. There's like 6 teams of these account managers, and they have their ISRs underneath them. And so sales owns it, but you have 6 teams doing it 6 different ways because the process was never documented and clearly defined. And then we've had the issue of all of the salespeople being like, well, I have to do it my way because I have to do it this way because the customer says I have to do it this way. And we're like, can you show us the documentation where you need to do it?
Yeah.
Why, where was this determined and why do we think this way? And they're like, well, this is just how they like to see it. That's what I know. They just like to see it this way. And so we've dealt a lot with, and that's,
Training.
it's not uncommon with small companies too, though, is
Yeah.
that when you scale quickly, you kind of lose the
Yeah.
process.
Yep. Sometimes that's okay, and you're going to fix it later.
Yep.
I realized a minute ago I was talking about these items on the screen now that I wasn't sharing my screen. So this is what the links were. The last thing in here that I'll mention is, yeah, Michael, you alluded to this at the beginning of, creating wins for sales. My conversion that happened in, I think it was 2012 when we first started using HubSpot. It was that summer that I was like to my business partner, yeah, great, go with HubSpot. I'm not going to take the time to learn it. I'm not going to set up and figure out these white papers and offers and stuff like that. I've got sales stuff to do. So I was the stick in the mud salesperson at that time. But what clicked for me is that once those pieces were in place, and after I had a sales conversation with a prospect that I had wanted to land for 5 years probably, um, I saw that after that conversation, I got an email from HubSpot saying that they were on the site. So this is their their notifications about who's visiting your website were much better 10 years ago than they are now. Um, they still come, but they're not as informative. Um, and then I also got a notification that the president of the company had downloaded one of the content offers that Deanna had written. And once we had won the business, and I learned from Tom that he not only downloaded that content piece from us, he printed it out and distributed it throughout his leadership team. And I could have had that done. I could have paid to have that done, but it would never have come with the weight of the president of the company saying, read this. So that was my conversion point. That's why I mentioned this. And yeah, make sure you've got content that is helping to move conversations forward. This goes into our growth team meeting we were just doing yesterday, actually, with sales and marketing getting together to talk about how, what kind of content are we going to create? What does sales need from marketing um, to keep hitting our goals? Anything I've missed here that y'all want to add in about how sales and marketing work better together? All right.
I think one thing to add real quick here is, and it also goes back to a slide that you had earlier, but just helping the sales and marketing teams understand that, like, at its core, HubSpot is a database system, and helping them understand like the difference between objects and properties. And like sometimes these small things can go a really long way. With one of our clients, one of used Salesforce in the past. And so when he thought about a contact, he thought it was the same as a company and a deal. And in his mind, he didn't differentiate them. And so if
Interesting.
I'm over here talking about more advanced things and he doesn't have that basic understanding of the software, it gets in the way of him knowing how to use it, and just having little bits of knowledge to inform decisions, and seeing how the outcome of the actions you take benefit the team overall through metrics, coaching, incentives, and so on.
Yeah, good point. It is. It's just these little insights that help to just, yeah, enough of those is like picture forms. But until that picture's there, it's a little bit like groping in the dark. And I think that's the resistance that people have to taking on these new systems. Like I don't want to learn another thing. Who's doing forecasting and using any of the sales analytics tools on the call? Isaac, is that something that you get into with your clients about how to forecast out of HubSpot? Or are you more on the just let's collect the information and have the right processes in place?
We build custom reports. So
Okay,
we'll just ask them like, what metrics do you use to make decisions? Like what do you spend your time, putting together for monthly presentations? And how can we automate the data from other areas in HubSpot to make it to where instead of, spending hours to put together reports, you just pull up the HubSpot screen and it shows you forecasting, activity tracking, and at a glance, you can focus more on what's actually going on than trying to put the action.
that is so easy to say and so hard to do, isn't it? Dashboards. Everybody wants dashboards, but man, they are hard to pull together.
Like, yeah, it can be tricky, but once again, that's why even before getting into HubSpot, knowing what you
Yes.
want and communicating it outside of looking at it is really what guides then going in and saying like, what formulas do we need to put together, what do we need to do to create what you need. Like, don't worry about describing it in HubSpot,
Hmm.
instead describe it to me as how you interact with other people, and let's use the technology to empower the way that you already like to work.
Yeah, design it first and then implement.
Hey Isaac, I have a question for you. So, how do you deal with when you're trying to have those conversations? Because that's exactly me and our VP technology are on the same page, and we're like, we need to understand your processes. What are your end outcomes you're trying to get to? You know, I don't need you to tell me what you need HubSpot to do. I need you to talk about what you're trying to get to. What do you do when you get like blank stares at that? Or like when we were trying to do dashboards, they were like, well, I just want to see some dashboards, or what's best practice? And we're like, no, what are your business questions? And then we'll help create the dashboard that answers your business questions. And they're like, no, 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 I just want to see them. How do you manage, or are you so lucky that you don't have to deal with those people?
No, it's a lot of times you'll ask questions and people don't speak that way, or they don't know how to think that way, or they've never faced that question before. And so what I'd like to do is provide a few options, or like get on their side of answering the question and help think through it, or maybe just ask some questions to get them to talk about, what do you do on a daily basis? Okay, well, after you do that with the lead, then what would you like to happen next? Or and then get them to kind of create those, and once those are defined, really flush them out. And then once they're flushed out, go back and try to make it as simple as possible.
Yeah. I'm kind of with Isaac in the fact that I think there's a language barrier there of trying to explain what goals are. You ask people in the sales process, what are your goals? It even relates to like tracking these things. A lot of times they track a lot of activity, but there's no real kind of pinpoint focused on what that is. It's almost like it's just whatever's hot that day. But I think we can, a lot of times if you can give them kind of just almost like a template or guide that says, here are what things in this industry people typically look for, just to kind of give them something they can cite. I have a friend of mine that's an interior designer, and he said that people can't always explain what they want, but they know when they see it. And sometimes if you can show them examples of things, and they can say, oh, okay, yeah, I definitely want to track how many calls this person's making, calls out this person's making a day, or I want to see how many new meetings this person's seeing a day. Because they don't really, right now, they don't really know. They're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants and focusing on closed deals. Oh, the deal closed, that means a success. But there's no real matrix that goes backward to say what variables are important to us that generally indicate that this is going to be a better, higher percentage of closed deals, if that makes sense. You have to kind of almost like look at Jedi mind trick. You got to kind of show them some things first before they can kind of really realize what they're looking at.
Do you ever get pushback? So when you're trying to provide like that template, so to say, here's some examples, and then something that we've dealt with is getting the pushback of, well, that's not relevant to me, and that's not my business. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to. How do you walk through those?
It's a little bit of a give and take recipe, and the thing about it is, you can get it to about 80% where it needs to be, and the last 20% will basically have to be put into play to be able to iron itself out, because they'll use it for a month and say, well, look, this last two matrix don't really mean a hill of beans. That's not showing us anything. So you take them out and you replace them with something else, or just leave them out. But the conversation has to be upfront about, this is not an exact science. There's a little bit of a growth hack here we have to work through, but it's a moving, working, breathing document that the dashboard is. It's not something that's set. So you have to give them, because a lot of times they want to just add water and instantly it's there. This is what I want to look. This is perfect what I was looking for. That's not how it works. It has to. There's some learnings that have to go on from their day to day, and also from your observation of what they're looking at, what they're measuring, to be able to suggest to things or to delete or omit things. I hope that kind of gives you an idea, but it's just not going to be an instantaneous, like, here it is, it works right off the bat. There's a give and take.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
How do you all, what have been your best practices with dashboards? Because we started out trying to do more custom dashboards for everybody. Now we're moving to a model where they're kind of trickle down, and then maybe you can have some custom stuff if you want it. What do you all find works best for your team that you get really the buy-in and then they're using the dashboards?
Our account managers start the keep it simple method. We start with just some of the basic things first, and then the customization. It's fun to say customization because everybody loves to have that kind of bespoke or tailored thing. But literally, some of the stuff that's out of the box or just really starting is really instrumental in just getting them a good idea. And then we'll add more effort if effort is needed. meaning if you want customization, we can go through that process, but I guarantee it, there's a lot of things that are typically routine or pretty easy out of the box that they probably measure and do, and probably advance their business knowledge by about 20% just by that. And then we'll think about customization, because I think people just want to run out of the box and do customization just because they can do it, and it's not always warranted.
Yeah, so it can easily be a bright, shiny object, and
Yeah.
a kind of an endless cycle that going through trying to improve on those. I look at it from the point of view of what the function of the business you're trying to get data for. We use EOS for running our business. It's entrepreneur operating system. Those of you who are familiar with it, yeah, not surprised that Stratagon's using that.
We're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great book, great process.
Yep.
But scorecards are a big part of that, and it's a weekly scorecard that gets updated. And we have scorecards for different parts of the business, and so we'll build dashboards to help populate those scorecards. So that's back to Isaac's suggestion of just understand how the business operates, what the buyer's process, the buyer's journey looks like. What are the activities that sales is doing that they need to be held accountable for? I mean, the revenue is like, that's the end goal. Yes, but there's all this other stuff that has to happen before revenue. And then there's that stuff that has to happen in marketing in order for even a sales conversation to take place, and just figuring out what are those important ones. Good conversation. I'm going to move us forward to wrap us up here on time. I just wanted to share a few resources. When we're doing onboarding and training, these are recommendations that we give out. The selling in a hybrid world is somewhat new. It's put together with Sandler sales experts. If you're not familiar with Sandler sales, I recommend it. I've been through it. Matt Wheeler, who's my colleague on the line, is going through the mastery program right now. It's a solid selling process. And HubSpot and Sandler developing a tighter relationship. Also next week, HubSpot's doing a World Certification Week. And for every certification that gets awarded next week, they'll donate $5 to charity. So go get your certifications starting on May 9th. You can start studying, just don't pass the test. And then a few resources that we've put together as we've been using the sales tools for Knowmad. Calling queues are great. It's like kind of putting what Michael, you were talking about, of dialing on steroids. You can create a list of tasks, and then in that task list, there's the button to start the queue. And if these are all set up as a call type in the system, it'll automatically pop up the dialer, and all you have to hit is call. And then once that call is complete, there's a bar across the top of the page, allows you to go to the next one. The dialer's popped up and ready to go. So it's a quick way to burn through a call list. The other resource that we have to share, I did a webinar back in August of last year about using HubSpot tools to book more sales appointments. It's for most of you all, this is pretty standard stuff. Consider these resources that you might be able to share with some of your team members who just aren't as far along as you are. I imagine y'all are already on the mailing list, but if you're not, come join us there, and I hope that you'll continue to join us in these conversations.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for organizing, Emily. I know you're the behind the scenes that does all the heavy lifting for us. So thank you for helping to organize. And McKenna, Isaac, Michael, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you, Kara, for your hard work on the back end. McKenna, Isaac, it's nice to meet you. A pleasure. Good conversation. And thanks for that. And William, thanks for your preparation and your shepherding us through that process. But it's been fun. We'll continue to have more topics on this. And I don't know, Emily, if you want to usher us into the next as we get to the end of time here. Tell you what's next.
Yeah, we got Michael's Service Hub deep dive the next first Thursday of June. I think it's the 7th. I will double check. So if you're interested in discussing a little bit more Service Hub related topics, join us for that. You'll see promotion on the page, but that is all I got for you.
All right, guys.
And we're working on something live, hopefully in Q3 if
Hopefully.
HubSpot will allow us. I don't know
Yes.
where that stands. We've been, only allowed to do virtual events
Virtual.
at
It's
this
been
point.
tricky. So I know, Isaac, you could probably join us for that one if you take a day trip up to Charlotte. But McKenna,
That'd be a good
where are
reason
you
to take a day trip.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I am in Greenville, Tennessee, but I am
Yeah.
happy to take day trips as an excuse. So to see other humans. So
Yes.
There you go.
that's
We got
what
some
like
good beer out here, so we can maybe.
I have it in my my professional goals is to work more in marketing groups and HubSpot
Well,
groups
good.
and get to know more people using the platform. So I've got all
Hey,
the
guys.
excuse in the world.
Tickets for Inbound are already up and ready, and the prices are going up. So catch me if you want to go to Boston. Like I said, we're gonna do a hybrid kind of in-person event. So if you guys want those, I think we get a discounted rate if you buy them through the Hug. So if you want to go to Inbound, if you haven't been before, it's a
Great.
worth the 3 or 4 days to spend in Boston among people that speak the language you speak and go through the same challenges and tribulations you do and get a wealth of knowledge at one point. The cool thing about it is, I meet more people there a lot of times that aren't even on the platform. They're Marketo users or they're in the marketing cloud. They just love the kind of the journalistic kind of view and focus that HubSpot has on just sheer marketing and inbound process. So if you haven't done it, you ought to think about that. So that's a good spend of some educational dollars if you got them.
I definitely have me and one other that I want. We haven't got our tickets yet, but we are. If get in touch with you.
Let me know. Get in touch with me. Again, I'll
Okay.
reach out to you on LinkedIn as well. But get in touch with me, and I can get you guys a code to get you guys the rate.
All right, awesome.
Great.
All right, thank you guys. Y'all have a good afternoon.
Bye,
Nice
everybody.
meeting you.
Bye.
Welcome back, William.
Thank you, Michael.
I'm dying to hear about the trip.
Yeah. I'll share with you when we get together. I think we're talking next week.
Yep. I
Okay.
got to live vicariously through you. I'm ready to get back out in the world too.
Oh, it was so good.
I bet.
It comes with some cons as well. I'll share those with you in a private channel.
Uh-oh.
So we'll talk next
All
week.
right.
It's all good
See
though.
you guys.
It was worth it. Bye.
Thank you, Emily.